Very own cup here, brewed up, nice and steamy.
All right, so this is our conscious chat on quitting coffee with mushrooms and herbs. And so, of course, my name is Jessica Cologne, holistic health coach of Replenish Thyself. And this is Zhana, joined with me today. She is a clinical herbalist and the founder of Z-Plant Magic. So she has a local brand of blends, which we'll get into, that we brought into our store a couple of months ago. And one of the reasons that I chose her is because, one, she's local, which is great, and two, because she's a clinical herbalist. We see a lot of different mushroom coffees online, and I'll let Zhana really get into that. However, what I love the most is this one was formulated by a clinical herbalist. She knows her herbs. She grew up on herbs, playing out in the herbs, in nature, and just grew up really learning and understanding them and how they go really well together. So what better person to combine a blend that is going to help with stamina and energy and nourish the body while giving us that coffee taste and feel as well. So I will go ahead and get started with our series of questions. If you guys have any questions throughout, please drop them in the comments. If we don't get to them while we're on the live, we'll definitely respond in the comments.
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, thank you first off for having me here and being able to share with your community. This is something I'm really passionate about because I used to be a major espresso fiend. You wouldn't believe it based on how passionate I was about health and herbal medicine, but I used to drink, and this is laughable now, I used to drink about 6 shots of espresso every morning to start my day.
Wow.
Yes, so I, go-getter, want to make the most of my day. Remember that movie Limitless? Like, I love that kind of mindset of just making the most of every moment, and I love the taste of coffee, right? So yeah, I was in the gym, I was working out, I was taking all the great herbs and the supplements, but couldn't give up the coffee. And I never really thought it was that bad of an issue. I mean, 6 shots is a lot, but and it was always kind of like, oh yeah, coffee, it's got some benefits, it's got some antioxidants, it's fine. It wasn't until I started realizing how it was affecting my relationships and my mood with the irritability, and I started taking a hard look at myself, and I was like, okay, I could be a lot nicer if I wasn't constantly crashing on the caffeine.
Oh, the crash.
Yes, the crash and the irritability and just kind of the tunnel vision look on life. It wasn't really able to ebb and flow in conversations. But even that wasn't really enough to get me to completely get off of it. But it was enough to get me interested in taking my knowledge of various functional mushrooms and herbs and seeing how might I boost my coffee to cut back on it a little bit and maybe reduce some of the side effects that I was noticing of the anxiety and just kind of the one-track mind to an extent that it was a little bit detrimental. So that's where I began formulating and mixing and having some fun in the kitchen, putting, reishi and lion's mane and really just testing myself and seeing, how did it make me feel? And I have to say, I noticed an improvement. The first thing that I noticed is my mood was a lot better. That was the first thing. Taste-wise, it blended well with the bitter taste of coffee, so it was really good. My focus shot through the roof.
This is when you were adding things to
when
your
I was
coffee,
adding
you were
it,
completely cut off coffee.
Yeah, it wasn't completely cut off at this point. I was adding it to the coffee, and it got me down to a reasonable 2 shots a day. Right? 2 shots a day with the mushrooms and herbs. I was loving life. At this time, I did have my herbal business, and one of the predominant blends was a 14 mushroom cacao blend. People love that. It was very easy to mix in my everyday routine. It was great. But as I was spending day in and day out working with clients one-on-one as a clinical herbalist, that's when I really started noticing those patterns. I would have people come in for gut health issues, anxiety, insomnia. People were coming in with PMS issues. People were coming in with headaches. And you know, looking at each person and each individual case and going, okay, this is what's going on here. What's going on with this constitution? It wasn't until after about a year in, I really started noticing the pattern of, oh, it's all leading back to the consistent caffeine consumption and the consistent coffee habit. And I'm not talking about just that 1 cup in a blue moon. I'm talking about people that were taking, you know, anywhere from 3 to 4 cups a day over, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, coming to me with these different issues. So yes, I could take a blend of herbs and give them a tea and have them take that, and it would counteract it, and they could keep drinking the coffee. But then I'm adding to their day instead of making it simpler. I'm adding more things in, and a lot of times people didn't always want to like have that extra burden of taking the supplements, taking the herbs, and really it could all be solved if we just took the coffee out. And so I did a little experiment. I was like, all right, just trust me. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Let's do it. And I'll do it with you, because keep in mind, I love my espresso too. So we ran a little experiment, and everybody came back and they go, yep, I feel better.
Wow.
Nope, not going to continue because I love my coffee. I was like, all right, what if we could get something that tasted like coffee as a placeholder for you? Would you be able to maintain this type of lifestyle? And a lot of them go, I don't know. Let's see. What do you got? Let's see. And so I was like, all right, let's see. And I started thinking about, all right, what is the predominant constitution of somebody that has been drinking a lot of coffee? A lot of times what you'll notice is a lot of coffee and caffeine will leak a lot of very important minerals out of the body. So you're seeing a case of deficiency. You're seeing adrenal burnout. You're seeing fatigue, not so much because they don't have their caffeine, but because their body is just not getting the nutrients that they need on a daily basis. And the irritability and everything like that. So going kind of backward thinking, like, all right, how can I help the constitution of somebody that is suffering from an overdose of caffeine, not able to focus, not able to get good sleep, irritable, gut issues? What herbs would I ideally want in that? Not even thinking about coffee, just thinking about the herbal formula. And that's where I started getting together Alaskan rhodiola, which is going to be an amazing adaptogen that helps with anxiety, but it's also going to help with stamina. I started thinking about maca, right? I wanted herbs that were gentle, were nourishing, but could still give us that focus that we love about coffee. And then so we started doing roasted chicory in the blend. That's going to help with the inulin for the gut support. Also lion's mane's mushrooms to help with the focus, cordyceps with the stamina. So I started working on all these herbs together, getting just the right ratios together, not just for the taste, but for the effect. Right. So that way when you drank it, you felt energized. You felt like, yep, I got my get up and go. I've got my focus. I'm ready to tackle my day. But then you're still able to sleep at night. Right. Still able to feel good. Your mood is up. And then I wanted to add a little bit to it too, not just give you that energy, but I also wanted the mood support, because one of the biggest things that I saw was the irritability. So we've got to put in some herbs that are going to help with the mood. And then the other thing was the anxiety. There was so much anxiety that came, whether it was, recognized or not recognized. Anxiety was often followed along with a lot of the heavy coffee consumption. And so that's why, again, Alaskan rhodiola, ashwagandha, I really wanted those in there just to help take that edge off, help the body adapt to stress. So that way when you're in a high stress environment, whether that be from work or from running around with 5 kids in tow, or running around with different business responsibilities, you are able to get up, take your day, and feel your greatest without being dependent upon caffeine. And I don't want to sit here and say, caffeine never has a place in herbal medicine. There are times when it is appropriate. But when we think about this new year, when we think about, getting the best version of ourselves, a lot of times we want to cut back on sugar. We want to cut back on toxic relationships. We want to cut back on overspending. And a big one is cutting back on caffeine, because when you finally do get yourself free from it, you start to realize how you have this natural energy you can tap into in your body without being dependent upon anything else. So then it came down to flavor, right? Because as a former coffee snob myself, flavor had to be everything, and it had to look like it.
Right.
So this is the blend brewed up in a cup right here. As you can see, it's got that nice dark black color, and the taste is like really bitter the way it sits on your tongue, and it gives you that pickup energy. For somebody that is what we'll say in herbal medicine more deficient, they'll drink a cup of this and they'll feel nourished, and that's where they're getting a lot of the energy from. A lot of people ask me, how is their energy when there's no caffeine? And it's because the herbs are nourishing you. They're stimulating your body in a different way. They're moving blood throughout the body. They're getting all those nutrients where they need to go. They're helping those nerves, you know, move through, and that's one of the things about lion's mane mushroom is the neurogenesis aspect. So when you're trying to think of starting a new habit, a new lifestyle, lion's mane mushroom is one of those mushrooms that's really good to just kind of help kickstart new habits.
Right.
So yeah,
you said a lot of good stuff there. Yeah. A couple of the points, and one of the biggest ones that you're saying, caffeine is like, you know, a lot of times we talk about, when you talk about herbs, you're getting to the root cause. You're nourishing the body. Yeah. You are giving your body what it needs instead of putting a Band-Aid. Yeah. So could we kind of say coffee is like a Band-Aid in regards to getting that energy and getting that focus, whereas one of the points that you said is the coffee is actually depleting your body of the minerals and the nutrients it needs. Yeah. So while energy is great, we need minerals and vitamins for other aspects of life, for our organs to function properly, for the blood to flow, for hormones to be in balance. Like so many things we need those minerals for. And if coffee is depleting the body of them, then you have a lot more issues than just a crash. And irritability in itself is definitely a problem, being moody and things of that nature. However, not having those minerals is huge. So being able to get the minerals and the nutrients from the mushrooms and the herbs does so much more for your health while still getting everything that you want from that cup of coffee.
Right. Exactly, and that's what it is. The cup of coffee in the morning, like for me, back when I used to be hooked on my espresso, it was like a way to bribe myself to get out of bed in cold mornings. And that's really what it is. It's a ritual, right? It's a meditation for a lot of people. It's for some people the only time of day they can really truly connect and have almost a spiritual moment and just take a few minutes to breathe. So we don't want to take that away, and that flavor is something that is just for a lot of people very important. But if all you're getting out of it, and I don't want to by any means minimize that ritual, but if all you're getting from that cup is the ritual, and then it's going to give you some caffeine for an artificial sense of energy, it's almost like you're running on credit cards for your energy all day instead of a debit card, right? Why not have that same ritual, but with something that tastes just like the coffee that you know and you love, but it's going to add and nourish and help restore the adrenals instead. So in the long term, when you look 20 years in the future, you're not, going into your local acupuncturist or herbalist saying, can you help me with my, gut imbalances? Can you help me with my insomnia? Can you help me with my anxiety?
Right.
Because you're being proactive.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on a couple of my questions there. You talked about your formula. Can you share a little bit more with us? How does your formula differentiate than some of the others that we see widely spread on socials many times and kicking coffee for a mushroom blend? How does Z Plant Magic stand out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I started 5 years ago, people looked at me sideways like I had 3 heads when I was asking them to drink hot mushrooms in a cup. And since then, as you're very well aware, numerous other companies have jumped on, I don't want to say the bandwagon, but have jumped on recognizing that there is benefit in functional mushrooms, which is great. I love that there's all sort of different creative ideas on, how to incorporate something nourishing into your daily routine. What makes us different is I formulated this blend specifically for somebody that, one, loves coffee, 2 does not want coffee. So the other blends have instant coffee in them a lot of times, or they'll have a coffee extract in them. Some of them will do a black tea or a chai tea or even a green tea in there. So my blend's different because there's no caffeine in it. There is a little bit of cacao in it, which has a theobromine, but the amount that's in the blend is not recognized as getting a dose of caffeine at all. So that is the biggest difference. Is this is a blend that 8 out of 10 people will say that's not coffee,
Right.
but there's no coffee in it.
Right.
And it's formulated by a clinical herbalist that understands what somebody like myself who had an addiction to espresso or coffee, what their constitution is going to look like and what herbs they need to get out of it. So just to give you a little forward look into what happens when you switch off of coffee doing a blend like this. At first, you're going to get a lot more energy, you're going to get picked up, you're going to have more focus, you're going to be like, life is amazing, it's great. You're going to be like me if you're an overachiever, drinking 3 cups a day and soaring through life. And then you're going to realize, I don't need to do that. And you're going to have just a cup a day. You're going to feel balanced, nourished. And then you're going to realize you don't even need to have a cup every single day just to feel energy. You're waking up energized. Your body is already put into balance depending on how deficient you were, how out of whack you were before. Your body's in a state of balance. And then it just becomes a nice, comforting cup, nourishing. So that way you don't have to backslide into the coffee habit, which we know it's so easy to do. It's so easy to be like, it's a rainy day and with my friends, let's have a cappuccino, and you have that cappuccino and then you're in bed at 12:30 like, why did I do that to myself?
Right.
So this is a way for you to skip that whole part. But not everybody is ready to just be like, I want to go cold turkey off of coffee, and that's okay. Like I started, I didn't even start just making the switch right away. I started by incorporating those mushrooms and those herbs into my coffee. So if you're going to do that, fine, but get the best coffee. Don't get instant coffee in your blend with sugar and coconut milk like a lot of these other companies are doing, right? If you're gonna mix it in coffee, go get the premium coffee, which is gonna be high in antioxidants. It's not gonna have all the pesticides in there. It's gonna be the good stuff. Do a little bit of that and then mix the blend in there and get the best of both worlds until you're ready, until your body's ready to be like, you know what? We're good. We don't need caffeine anymore. We're energized.
Okay, so you can mix this blend with your coffee.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, and then just slowly taper off until you completely kick the coffee.
Yeah, but once you get there, trust me, it's a pretty place to be.
Sure. Okay, and so with that, you started to touch on it. With somebody that's not completely ready to kick it, adding this is beneficial. Are there any other herbs or insight that you would give on what somebody could do in the process of kicking the coffee?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some people I found drink the coffee because they want the energy, and they actually hate the taste of coffee. So if you don't like the taste of coffee, there are plenty of herbs out there that you can use that are going to be nourishing and energizing. One of my favorites is nettle. Nettle is such an abundant herb. It's a blood mover. It's nourishing. It's also going to help with some of the anxiety, and it's chock full of nutrients. Making a cup of nettle tea is almost, I would say, like as equally energizing as a cup of coffee without the jitters, without the anxiety that comes with, without the caffeine. And for women specifically, I would highly recommend doing half nettle and half red raspberry. That's going to be such a beautiful, nourishing blend. If you're not stuck on the coffee flavor and you're just like, I just want something to wake me up and nourish me so I can feel energized and focused, those would be great. If you want to add something for the brain, you could mix in a little bit of bacopa, or you could do gotu kola if you want, or you could do cordyceps mushroom in there too. Again, we're getting a little out there, but the nettle and the red raspberry, like those are two really easy ones.
Right.
And if you're, someone that says, okay, those are great, and if you know your herbal medicine, Medica, you'll know that those can be a little bit drying, so add a little bit of marshmallow leaf in there just to smooth things out. Some people like to take their coffee because it helps stimulate their bowel movement in the morning. You could do marshmallow leaf instead, and that would create a similar effect too. Other herbs that are going to be really nourishing it, and these are herbs that are in the blend. Rhodiola is so energizing. Maca, Siberian ginseng, right? You can, and Siberian ginseng for us here in Florida is actually going to be more beneficial than regular ginseng, just because it's a little bit drier. Whereas we're here in Florida, where it's really humid, so it's going to be a little bit better there. Yeah.
I love that you touched on for women, which I would like to take just a moment to say that, because of course we get so many women that come in and have such severe, awful periods. You know, cysts and fibroids. I hear it way more often than we need to be. Irritability, low energy, but yet drinking coffee, you know, which of course now we understand why. However, the correlation with coffee and lack of nutrients and just awful periods, it's just so common. And I think we've come to a society where we think, oh, it's normal to have these bad periods, and it's not. We can have pain-free periods, we really can, or very minimal. So what you touched on, even with the nettle and the red raspberry, great. And as you mentioned before, for those women, just get rid of the coffee. We're not even going to talk about diet, which is important, but even just ridding the coffee, like how beneficial that can be, and adding things like the nettle and the red raspberry. I like to do those and add some ginger root to it, as you said, with like digestion and pain. I don't know if you had anything else, but just wanted to touch on that real quick, because we do get so many women that suffer with really bad symptoms of PMS, and we don't have to.
No, you definitely doesn't have to. And again, it's all about, you know, the easiest thing in your daily routine. When I first began working with clients as a clinical herbalist, I'm sorry for my clients, I had recipes out the wazoo, I had a whole plan, we were going to change the world together. But I really found that, you know, people have busy lives. It's too much. And the best thing is the simplest thing. And rather than adding more in, let's see what we can take out and just make our lives a little bit simpler. Cut out some of the stuff that's going to be the biggest things, like the caffeine from the coffee. You know, when it comes to just, you know, touching on the ovarian cysts, like things like dairy, like we don't want to get into it too much, but you know, diet does have a big play with it. And when you wake up in the morning and the first thing that you do to start your day is something that's going to nourish and restore, it sets a pattern. It gives your brain a little pat on the back, and it makes you excited for that next positive thing that you're going to do. And that next positive thing, like going outside, soaking up some fresh sunlight, maybe splashing some cold water on your face, remembering to take your vitamins, choosing that healthier option rather than, you know, the tastier, more convenient food option. And it sets the chain reaction, and that's what we really want to see for the big picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, that reminds me of that. So I love that you said that, like, you know, pets your brain and gives your body a hug with nutrients. But how you do one thing is how you do all things. And that is really great in regards to what's in your cup in the morning. How are you starting your day? What are you doing to get the body nourished and wake it up? I mean, ideally it's been sleeping for 8 hours, so you've been fasting. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, you shouldn't put something really harsh on the system. It should have something that is nourishing and just giving your body the wake up that it needs without too much stress on your nerves and just the functionality of your body. You started to touch on it with the coffee blend, coffee with the K. What are some other habits that we can do to maximize its benefits?
Yeah, great question. The first thing that I would say is drink water. You would be surprised about how many people don't drink enough water in a day, and it makes such a big difference. When you drink more water, you think clearer, your skin's better, and it's such a small little thing. So yes, cutting back on the coffee, or even cutting it out completely and swapping it out for coffee with a K. But incorporate more water into your routine. Whatever you're doing right now, and I don't want to make an overwhelming pedestal of idealism of what we should do to be healthy. Just look at where you are right now. If your day is 4 cups of water, let's try to bump it up to 5 and see how we can do next month to go from there. The other thing that I would say is moving the body is going to be really helpful. We have in this luxurious modern world a lot of opportunity to sit down and work on the computer, work on our phones, and not so much the opportunity to walk around. Like, we're not walking into the village with produce that we grew to sell it at the market these days. We're jumping in our cars. So just going outside, go for a walk, get that fresh air. Do a little yoga. If yoga is not your thing, if working out's not your thing, maybe try pickleball. If you don't like pickleball, maybe count the flowers in your neighborhood. You know, whatever gets you excited. Maybe go out on the water. Whatever your thing is that gets your body moving is going to be really beneficial. The other thing that I would say is meditation. So with meditation, I know some people might be a little bit resistant to it, but taking those few minutes, and you don't have to start with this idea of 20 minutes with a candle staring into it and reaching nirvana, right? It can start with just taking a few minutes and noticing your breath. You'll notice, especially I like to do it with my cup of coffee sometimes, a lot of the herbs in this blend are going to help with focus, are going to help with memory. It's going to help with your body. So just sitting and observing, noticing, how do you feel? And you can start paying attention to the thoughts in your head that are, you know, truly thoughts that are going to be from your highest self to get you in a place where you're striving to be your best self, or are they just old fears, old toxic patterns that you've had playing on repeat, and you don't even realize that it's not even you anymore. It's just old voices in the background. So just taking that meditation, sitting in that stillness is going to be really beneficial. Taking your vitamins too, right? Like, we can drink a cup of really nourishing, beneficial herbs. This is not going to replace your multivitamin. This is not going to replace your vitamin C. You got to take those very essential nutrients, especially, and again, today's world where unfortunately a lot of our produce from the grocery store don't have the same nutritional benefits that they once used to. So getting those vitamins in. The other thing that I would say is just taking time to connect with friends and family. It's going to be really beneficial, because when you connect with other people, you're connecting and having that positive vibration, and you get to share what's inspiring and what's changing in your life. They get to share what's inspiring and beneficial in their lives, and together then you can have that positive domino effect that we were talking about earlier.
All right.
Yeah.
And for those who are allergic to mushrooms, and by the way, the coffee does not taste like mushrooms. So even if you don't like mushrooms, you can try the coffee. It does not taste like mushrooms. But for those who are allergic, what herbs, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what would be replacements for coffee?
Yeah, so, and allergic, or just maybe not wanting to ingest mushrooms for whatever reason, I would say, again, going back to the nettle is going to be really beneficial. Red raspberry is going to be very nourishing. You could also do Siberian ginseng, which we talked about, rhodiola, some other energizers that I would say are probably more readily available, or like things like peppermint. You don't think about it, it's such a common herb, but it's very uplifting. It also helps calm the belly too. It doesn't taste like coffee, but if you're allergic to some of those other herbs, it's a really good one. One of my other herbs that I really do enjoy, now this one does come from the Iliac family, which is in the same family as black tea, but Guayusa. And Guayusa is used in the jungle of South America to help with like eyesight and vision, and it's another amazing herb. So if you're not weary of black tea, I would say that would be another good one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So lots of great information. Are there any closing remarks, insight, or suggestions that you would like to give to wrap it all up?
Yeah, I would say take it one day at a time. Always take it one day at a time and just see what your personal health journey is. If it's just, hey, I've been hearing a lot about functional mushrooms and adaptogens and I want to see if my body could use them, great, start incorporating a little bit. You don't have to be a coffee lover to enjoy coffee with a K or any of these other mushroom blends that we have here. You can incorporate it into food, which is one of my favorite things to do. In fact, coming out of Christmas, we made a whole bunch of blends with some of the mushroom blends. We did a cacao pumpkin spice one, and that one was really good, really tasty. And we will be able, if you're local here in St. Petersburg, to share some of those with you. If you join us on January 21st at 4:30, I'm going to have some gluten-free and some vegan desserts and some different mushroom lattes that you can try and see for yourself on the flavor. We'll have some recipes. It'll be a great time. Yeah, take it one day at a time. Yes. And enjoy the journey.
I love that. Two of the things that you said that I'd really like to touch on is taking it one day at a time, becoming wherever you are in your wellness journey. It is constant. We're always learning and always improving. And if you're relatively new into it, it can be very overwhelming and very frustrating. But don't let it be, because you know more today and you're doing better today than you were yesterday. And as long as you continue with that, then you're doing great. Don't get so overwhelmed to the point to where it kind of pushes you away. Just know that it's all right. You're doing better. And then one of the other points that you mentioned that I also love to emphasize is find what fits your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Not everything is for everybody. So when Zhana was mentioning in the beginning having two options for people, or two practices, doing the coffee and the coffee with a K, that's an extra step. So finding what works for you, what fits for you, even with making the coffee. I've recently posted on my story, you can use a French press. Some people come in and they don't have one. Totally fine. You can brew it like you would tea and like a diffuser. And then you can also, can you put it in like how you make coffee, just putting it in paper?
Yeah, I have some people that say they'll put it in a coffee filter and prepare it that way. They'll actually mix it with coffee when they do it that way. Okay. The way that this is, it's a really fine powder with the mushrooms and the herbs. So I haven't really enjoyed the drip method of doing it, but there's something called a stovetop espresso maker or a mocha pot, and if you have one of those, you've got to try it. It is so good. So good. And then of course the French press I find is the absolute easiest. You just take a scoop, you drop it in there, and you add your hot water, let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes while you're doing your meditation perhaps, or stretching, and then pour it in your mug. You can drink it black, or you can add a little bit of your favorite sweetener. I usually like to do a little bit of oat milk on top. That's one of my favorite ways to froth that up. Mm-hmm. You could also mix it. I have one of my clients, she mixes it with black tea and some lavender syrup. Divines, really good. The options are really endless. You could also put it into protein shakes. But again, this blend is 100% pure mushrooms and herbs. You're not going to find coconut milk powder in it. You're not going to find sweetener in it. You're not going to find instant coffee in it or any other caffeine source. And that's what makes it special, is you can have the discrepancy to jazz it up however you like that fits your lifestyle.
Yep. Yeah, so again, on the 21st, which is a Sunday at 4:30, we will be tasting some lattes and desserts, and it will be us again answering your questions, giving some information. So these conversations that are live are fabulous, and the in-store ones just take it up a notch, because, as Zhana said in the beginning, you can't taste it through the phone. You'll be able, not yet. So you'll be able to in person. So that is limited seating. You can go to replenishthyself.com and find and reserve your seat there. So we would love to have you. We appreciate you. And again, we'll get to any questions. Where this blend is. Oh, yep, of course. Where is the blend available? So yes, we do have it here in our store at Replenish Thyself, and not only do we have the herbal coffee blend, we didn't even get to the other three because this is specifically for coffee, but there are 3 other blends as well, which are delicious and all have a little bit of their own flavor, and one that is fabulous for children that again is going to help with the focus and the memory and things of that nature. So we have all 4 blends here, and then your website people can purchase as well.
Yeah, zplantmagic.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, appreciate you guys. Stay replenished and always be free to reach out if you have any questions related to the coffee, to the herbs, or anything. And thank you so much for being here
Thank you
and
for having
creating
me.
this fabulous product.
Thank you. Cheers.